We're starting this edition with some big development that's coming in at the moment. Government sources have told NDTV on the India-US trade deal that the trade deal between the two nations is expected to be finalized before 8th of July. Well, India is seeking full exemption from the 26% additional tariffs that have been imposed on us from the US. India's chief negotiator Rajesh Agrawal is in US with the Indian team, and we understand both sides are trying to finalize the agreement, the trade deal in which India is seeking full exemption from the 26% tariffs levied by the US on us. The two nations are already discussing the bilateral trade agreement, and they might announce the BTA before July 8. This is a big development coming in. Let's listen in to what the MEA has to say.
As you know that, these talks are going on in Washington, D.C. presently. Our Commerce and Industry Minister, along with the team, they are there to negotiate. This is an ongoing process.
All right, my colleague Gauri Dwivedi as well as Himanshu is also now joining us on the broadcast here. Himanshu got us this news. I'll go to him in just a bit. Gauri, let me first come to you. We are now learning that a trade deal is to be finalized before 8th of July. This is a big development now coming in. And how significant is this trade deal, and how soon are we expecting US and India to finalize the modalities?
Indeed, Kijit, it's a very important aspect of the India-US relationship. As far as, the specifics of this is concerned, which Himanshu will, of course, bring us up to speed with, the fact that there will be an early announcement of the trade deal is very significant. Remember, India was one of the first set of countries that started trade negotiations with Trump 2.0. There have been a lot of news coming in, specifically that, there could be the zero tariff goods that could be in the pipeline, the fact that it could be a three-phase deal, with the first being announced for a limited number of goods immediately, paving the way for negotiations to continue and maybe a full trade pact to come out maybe after a year or so. And thirdly, the other aspect is that trade is a very important aspect of how Donald Trump views all relationships. So if the trade deal is done and out of the way, negotiations and relationship can then focus on some of the other aspects, whether it's the strategic issues, whether it's the technological collaboration, whether it's about alignment on several national security issues, terrorism being one of them. All of them will suddenly become key priorities areas, because trade as a stumbling block would have been addressed by the two sides early on in the Trump administration. Remember, it's still been just a little over 3 months since the government has come to power, and if India has been able to thrash out some sort of a trade agreement with the US, that's a huge positive. Only the UK has been able to do so till now, and India could become the second country to actually close a deal with the US as far as trade is concerned. Huge upside, possibility of several other issues becoming more important in the table, and ensuring that there is no bad blood between the two sides, given the fact that how trade is important and central to Donald Trump in all negotiations.
Absolutely. We understand the US had imposed a 26% reciprocal tariff on us, on our goods, but then it suspended also it for 90 days, and that's going to end by July 9th. And before that, we understand that this trade agreement between the two sides is expected to be finalized. My colleague Himanshu also with us. Himanshu, you've got us these details. We understand government sources have been telling NDTV that before the 8th of July, this agreement between the two nations is going to be finalized. And our chief negotiator from our side, Rajesh Agrawal, is also in the US at this point in time.
That's right. India is engaging the Trump administration at two levels, at the official level and also at the political level. As we know, Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal was in the US few days ago, and he held a series of interactions and talks with US Commerce Secretary, also senior representatives of the Trump administration. And now, following that political level contact, official level talks have now started. They are going on now. Rajesh Agrawal and team of officials are now negotiating some kind of an interim trade deal so as to skirt the imposition of 26% reciprocal tariff that is expected to be again imposed after the pause of 90 days is lifted by July 9th. So I think India's target, of course, is to have some kind of interim arrangement so that Indian exporters can avoid 26% reciprocal tariff. And secondly, and I think this is important, I just interviewed the member of Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, Sunil Jan, And he said, remember, whenever two countries get into a trade deal, the negotiations are very complex. They go on for up to a year. So that is one reason why both the countries are now seeking to negotiate an interim deal. And if an interim deal is indeed finalized and agreement is reached,
Right.
it will also facilitate the first tranche of the bilateral trade agreement by September this year, the deadline that was set by Prime Minister Modi and US President Trump in February.
Okay, all right. You've also spoken to Indo-American Chamber of Commerce member Sunil Jan on this interim trade deal that's going to be expected to be worked out before July 8th, as per information now coming in. Let's first listen into that chat.
To negotiate an interim deal ahead of the first tranche of the proposed bilateral trade agreement by September. To talk more on this, I have with me Sunil Jan, who is a member of Indo-American Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to NDTV. How do you see this news that India and the US are now negotiating some kind of an interim deal ahead of the proposed bilateral trade agreement by September?
You know, this point or whatever it is being said in the media that there is going to be an interim deal discussion is itself a very positive news, which means that both the countries want to move forward to take an ultimate goal of the final deal. So this is an extremely positive sign as I look at it. What it does is that it gives us a base for the future deal. Whatever we agree partially in the interim deal, portions of that will translate into the future deal. And I believe interim deal should sort out some of the key issues which India has, especially in the agriculture sector, especially in the textile sectors and labor intensive sector. US has always been asking us to open the door for genetically modified crops, which India has never allowed, because India being an agri economy gets affected indirectly in a big way. Some sort of concessions will be given for agri, I'm sure about it, but I don't see a big concession going from Indian side.